Hello, my name is Eddie Knighton. My partner is Kelly Hobb. Our research topic is first steps working with families in preparation for the kindergarten year. This is a research proposal. Kindergarten readiness is a hot issue in education right now, and as our society becomes more complex, it's gaining increasing importance and notice in education. Students are expected to have a knowledge base now that were previously learned in kindergarten. Now they're actually anticipated to know a certain amount of things before they enter into kindergarten. Upon looking at the National Center of Learning Disabilities checklist for kindergarten preparedness, students are now expected to have sufficient cognitive development, phenomenological awareness and print knowledge, an increase in mathematics skills, social and emotional intelligence. Therefore, parents and caregivers need to be active co-educators with educators. So the purpose of this study is to look at what parents need while their children are in pre-kindergarten to help them both with their current and future parent-teacher relationships and getting their children ready for kindergarten. The increased need for kindergarten readiness. Our problem statement is that there is a disparity in readiness for students entering into kindergarten. The purpose of the study is to minimize that disparity by working with parents and caregivers to accommodate students' individual readiness needs by developing a localized and individualized system to assist parents in kindergarten preparation. The justification for it is twofold. The first is the heightened emphasis placed on developing kindergarten readiness by educators and administrators. And the students at Hamilton Elementary are collectively below average in comparison to the national readiness standards. The review is substantial. In the academic databases for educators, there's thousands and thousands of articles and journals to read pertaining to kindergarten readiness. They range everywhere from cognitive and developmental psychology down to what can you do on an ecological level to make students more comfortable in classrooms and to make classrooms more stimulating for students. The information available to parents, on the other hand, is also substantial. There's thousands of websites aimed at parents, and you can search kindergarten readiness, and it will bring up literally everything that a parent could possibly need to know in order to get their child ready. Upon the first search, it brings us up to this immediate list, this kindergarten readiness indicators checklist, which if you were to search the phrase kindergarten readiness, it comes from the very first site that you have here. And this list breaks down the subcategories of what students are needing to know, both in the fall, the winter, and the spring. We kind of adapt some of this information into our question survey, as well as some more qualitative questions aimed at parents for us to be able to assist the parents. There's no specific literature, however, for the regional area of Hamilton Elementary. So this would be an action-based research intended for that particular school district. Research participants, the parents and pre-kindergarten students zoned to attend Hamilton Elementary for the year 20 and 21. Public school kindergarten classrooms and child care centers within the school district. The design it will include surveys that are conducted at the start and at the finish of the school year with sporadic progress forms throughout. Surveys will be take-home questionnaires collected by the educators and the participants. The data collection, there's three types of surveys as noted. The first is the preliminary survey at the beginning of the year. There's two purposes behind this. One, it surveys parents' knowledge of their students' academic and emotional intelligence to see where they think their students are. In addition, it introduces the requirements for kindergarten readiness that I showed you briefly on that checklist. The progress reports will be sent home standard. Progress reports are pretty standard, but this assesses and informs of the progress. But most importantly, it'll keep the parent involved, as this is actually a proactive survey to keep parents' minds and focus on their child's development. So by constantly involving them, they are involved. And the end of the year survey is the big one. It measures the parent's qualitative experience throughout the pre-K year. It surveys the caregiver's opinions toward pre-K readiness, where it could be approved for the following year. For the analysis section, it's qualitative interpretation of the questionnaires on two levels. One is per individual student throughout the year to assess and identify unique preparatory needs. Second is collectively, as a class, as a preschool, at the end of the school year, to identify negative and positive patterns for future implementation and correction. This will have an emphasis on, the most helpful suggestions made by families, because, again, the initial idea here is to assist parents in assisting us with kindergarten preparedness. Limitations and delimitations are pretty obvious. It's informal, and it's intended to assess the improvement needs for the specific context of Hamilton Elementary. So therefore, it's not definitive as it pertains to regional, cultural, and it anticipates variation between school years. So it recognizes the subjectivity that, each classroom has its own personality, just the same as every school and every student has their own personality. And the proposed timeline seems ambitious, but it's appropriate. It's one school year from August to June. The assumptions: increased parental caregiver awareness to kindergarten readiness expectations will increase caregiver support of education at home. That means that, the parents will become aware of what is expected for kindergarten. The mandatory involvement of the caregiver throughout the preschool year will also increase their support of the educator at home. The study will provide educators and administrators the caregiver's perspective of pre-K strengths and weaknesses. That way we can implement that and help them out in the future and curtail the various programs to better help parents help us. The students' educational needs become more individualized earlier in their academic career and more customized planning, so we can cater to learning styles earlier. The interconnectedness between preschool and kindergarten educators contribute toward the overall increase of student readiness. So it's an increase of communication. And at the very least, most importantly, some students will enter the school system more prepared than they would have. And every student that could possibly get a leg up or could use some assistance will have assistance earlier. Essentially, the outline was taken from our textbook, Introduction to Educational Resource, and the only other resource that I had was a sort of byline and used the checklist that I showed you in a few slides previous. Thank you very much.